I'm William Kumwembe and this is Business Time. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. And in the program today, we dive deep into the 5 trillion kwacha loss on the Malawi Stock Exchange in the first 5 months of the year. What does this mean? This comes as the Malawi Stock Exchange chief dismisses possibilities of a market crunch. We have this and other stories. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome. This is Business Time, and in our main story in the program today, in the past 5 months alone, the Malawi Stock Exchange lost about 5 trillion kwacha in market capitalization. This comes as some commentators are saying that it is a result of repositioning of some corporate investors on the Malawi Stock Exchange, and this has had an effect on the share price on many counters on the local bourse. But the Malawi Stock Exchange Chief Executive Officer John Kamanga says there is no need for panic, as this is one of those moments on the market where there has to be what he calls correction on the local bourse. For an insight on what does this mean, we caught up with John Kamanga in this interview.
What I would say that in terms of the past 5 months, we have seen the market actually, especially if we measure based on the market capitalization, we have seen the market capitalization actually nosediving, whereby it has declined from the levels of around 33 trillion Malawi kwacha to around 28 or 29 trillion Malawi kwacha, thereabout. However, this decline actually shouldn't cause any panic. You know, the market actually goes through what we call seasonal patterns, cyclical patterns, whereby it goes up and then it comes down. If I take you through in terms of actually how the market actually has performed, let's say even over a period of actually 15 years, from 2010 to about now 2025, then they're about to this time around May. You see that the market when around 2010, it was about negative 3%. And that actually went up, especially in now 2013, to about 108%, which was a remarkable actually increase. However, as we went through the years, around 2018, we had also 2013, 2017 thereabout, we had also registered a negative return of about 2%. But then in 2017, it went up again to about 62% in terms of actual positive, which was quite very high. But then there was also a correction around 2018, whereby the market went down to about 34%, still registering higher returns, but compared to 2017 of 62%, the market went down. And then thereafter went down again in 2020, that is, to about 7.8%. And then actually it averaged around 40% in 2021, then around 36% in 2022. But in 2023, the market, we saw it actually picking it up to about 78.8%. And then it went down in 2024 to about 55%. But in 2025, there was an extraordinary performance of the stock market, whereby we registered around 247.6%. And this was both actually in kwacha terms as well as in US dollar terms. And within that year, you find that at least the Malawi Stock Exchange was recognized as the best performing stock market actually within Africa, or even actually globally, if you look at in terms of actually the kwacha terms as well as in US dollar terms. However, as we went through now the 5 months, we have seen the market actually, what I would say, registering a decline, whereby we have registered a return on investment about 10 to 11%. But then there have been those, I would say, sentiments from the general public saying that at least the market will be dead. It will not be dead, because what would happen is that when you invest in the stock market, there are 2 elements where you can benefit. You will benefit through what we call capital appreciation, whereby we have seen the market capitalization going up, but also in terms of the dividend payout. If you look at in terms of most of the companies have actually posted what we call trading statements that in fact, they've released the financial statements, but also in terms of the trading statements. In terms of the financial statements for the 2025, most of the companies have actually released quite good results.
Now, as a media house, we've been tracking how the Malawi Stock Exchange has been performing month on month compared to same time last year. Journalist Chimwemwe Mangazi has had a closer look on the performance of the local market, and in this report highlights what does the performance mean and what does the future hold.
What is market capitalization and what is market correction? Market capitalization is simply the value of all the shares of listed companies, in this case on the Malawi Stock Exchange. So they multiply the price of a share for a company to the total number of shares of that particular company and then add to the value of all the listed companies. That's why we got the figure 33 trillion kwacha in December 2025. Today, the same mathematics, the same formula would give us around 28 trillion kwacha. Not because the market has shaken, but because the value of the shares has changed. The prices have changed. This shows us that when prices change, the market value changes as well. What is market correction? Now, these markets operate in a way that prices fluctuate. For example, if there are a lot of people that are interested to buy shares, it means those that are selling the shares would increase the price because of demand and supply forces as we know them. So in a case where prices were rising, as we have witnessed in recent 2 or 3 years, there was a sharp rise in prices of listed shares on the Malawi Stock Exchange, because in recent years, a lot of people have come to know and understand what the Malawi Stock Exchange is all about, and they were interested to buy. So there were a lot of buyers on the market that triggered the prices. The second factor is how the listed companies have been performing. Most of the listed companies have been posting huge profits that entailed a dividend, a good dividend payout for those that have shares in these listed companies. Now, what we are witnessing now is what is called correction, price correction or market correction, where the market is adjusting to find its true value, the true value of the shares. Now, market correction can simply be understood as a drop in the prices to find their real value, their true value. What we have seen in recent months, where prices of some of the listed companies are dropping, is not necessarily a detriment to the market itself, but it is just a cyclical event where markets fluctuate, where prices fluctuate. They could go up, they could go down. But in this case, they are going down. And once they find their true value, they will settle.
One of the Malawi Stock Exchange listed companies, TNM PLC, in 2025 delivered a record-breaking performance, both operation-wise and financial-wise. Its profit grew by over 100% to 22.27%, which is a whopping performance compared to the past 3 years, as the company had been grappling with a number of operational challenges. For an insight regarding the performance of the company and the outlook, I caught up with its Chief Executive Officer, Michelle Helbert, to understand the rationale or the reasoning behind the uptick and upbeat in as far as the future is concerned.
Actually, if you go back in history a little bit, you are correct in that TNM was suffering some losses. In 2022 and 2023, it suffered 2 years of negative profits. But that was preceded by about 6 years or so of losing market share, losing customers, and losing sight of the customer. So we did instigate a massive turnaround sort of beginning in 2023, but really in 2024 when we started seeing the impacts. The turnaround that we started was really, again, focusing on the basics of the business, which really means focusing on the customer and giving the customer a better experience, both with the internet and the voice, and again with Mpamba. That meant that we had to go back to the basics as well of our network, which is the underlying infrastructure providing the service. So we had to expand our network, put in better equipment, more capacity, and some new innovations that would actually give a better feel of the internet, making it faster, giving it better throughput, overall just a better customer experience. And Mpamba at the time, like all mobile money, it was suffering as well from fraud, as this is well known. And people had lost trust in mobile money. So what T&M did in Mpamba is that we put in some systems, new procedures, new checking verifications and so on, where people could trust Mpamba with their money. And of course we campaigned on that you can trust Mpamba. In fact, we have less than 1/10 of the fraud of any other provider out there. And with all of the systems that we have put in. So we saw that people would use Mpamba a whole lot more when they felt their money was protected. And so those are just some of the basics that we did. You can look at many other things. Our pricing was really messed up. At the time, some of the products that we launched were not giving a good experience at all to the customer. So we had to do a cleanup. And you could see that in 2024, we started gaining a lot of customers. Actually, we gained more than 1 million customers in 2024 just by doing some of these basic things, and ended up with a profit of 10 billion or so. In 2025, we went much more aggressive in that, which then doubled our profits last year. But what we added to the customer experience last year was, especially in Mpamba, was making sure that Mpamba was available everywhere, and more specifically, cash was available everywhere. So we put in our own direct logistics to be able to deliver cash to agents, to branches, and so on, so that when you, the customer, wanted to take, for example, 50,000 or 100,000 kwacha, you could go to a single agent and do that. So that was a massive logistics endeavor that we took, and we're still doing today. And you could see that Mpamba has grown. Actually, it grew last year by 77%. The year before, it grew by 90%. We've added another 1 million Mpamba users last year. We're now reaching 4 million Mpamba users now. And we had another 1 million GSM users, both voice and data. So in this kind of turnaround, with our systems focused on customer experience and our logistics and commercial, we were able actually to close the market share gap quite a bit with one of our largest rivals.
You're watching Business Time here on Times, and my name is William Kumwembe. This is a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. And my name is William Kumwembe. Moving on with the program. Corruption, especially in public infrastructure projects, and poor workmanship have been cited among challenges that are contributing to the low quality of infrastructure in the country. This was a general concern during the Malawi Institute of Architects annual general meeting, which was held last week in Blantyre. But this is happening under the watch of the regulator, the Construction Industry Regulatory Authority. What is the regulator doing about the situation to ensure that there is sanity and adherence to standards? We posed this question to Engineer Gerard Konje, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the organization.
Right now, we have enough authority. We may not have been doing enough previously, but the stage has been set because our legal framework has been reviewed. Originally, we only had authority over registered members, but we know that some poor decisions are promoted by clients over whom we had no mandate. But the Act now has given us mandate even over clients, to the extent that we can impose penalties on a client that has not followed the requirements in engaging service providers as well as in execution of various infrastructure projects. Having said that, we also have developed some guidelines, not only for players in the industry, but also for any stakeholder that is engaged or involved in the value chain for construction. So whether you are a material supplier, you are a client, you are a consultant, you take part in the delivery of infrastructure, the Act has embraced each and every one. So we issued a circular informing stakeholders of the mandatory requirements. And in that circular, we emphasized our enforcement posture to say we will engage, sensitize, but when we start enforcing, which we have already started, by the way, those that are operating outside the provisions of the Act will face the consequences. And we are continuing to be firm. Of course, we are going to be fair, following the due process. But once enforcement is done, there will be no compromise.
Now, Malawi Institute of Architects President is Steve Musopole. In this interview, he says there is need for professionals to be engaged and involved from the onset to the very latter stage of construction to ensure that there is sanity in the industry.
Yes, having a new system is good progress, and what we've seen is this is trying to address some of the gaps that were there. We were involved at some point, we were consulted to provide some feedback. So my comment would be this is a step forward, and we are moving with technology. I've seen now some organizations that are allowing submission of tenders through online, which wasn't the case in the past. We were all doing paperwork. So with all these environmental issues coming in, this is helping to make us align with the environmental objectives, goals. But what I can also comment is it also allows, the new system allows for transparency, and there is also objectivity. So there is nothing to hide. All is put for everybody to see in terms of the system. So I commend government for this initiative.
Now, in other business news, the 36th International Trade Fair is over. Deals have been stricken and opportunities have been created. But how long-lasting would these be? Because history has it that Malawi has had similar platforms where discussions and conversations have been held regarding opportunities in as far as business, trade and investment is concerned. But not much results have been yielded from such conversations. Should we expect something different this time around?
The Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, MCCCI, says this year's 36th Malawi International Trade Fair recorded increased participation and facilitated multi-million kwacha business deals. The fair this year attracted exhibitors from various sectors, including manufacturing, agro-processing, energy, financial services, and small and medium enterprises. In an interview, MCCCI Business Development Manager Wes Mongoni described the fair as one of the country's most important trade promotion platforms, which remains relevant even after 36 years and continues to advance Malawi's export agenda through engagements with local and regional partners.
As MCCCI, we have got different mandates, one of which is trade facilitation. And we mostly do it through trade events. So this is the 36th year that we have held this event, and we still see it as relevant because it's a place where business people meet. I think it's the largest trade exhibition that we have in the country, and it's like that even in other countries where they hold this annually. So we meet up as businesses. As you may have seen, we also had a delegation from Mozambique to encourage us to be using the Kilimani port. So that's going to have an impact on our exports, as well as we're also advancing the export agenda, because now Kilimani is going to be shorter than us going all the way to Beira or to Maputo. It's at least 5 hours shorter. So it's going to be 5 hours shorter. It's going to be economical as well. So those are the things that we are trying to bring to the business community. And this is the information that we need for us to move forward, as we're also looking into the Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
The 36th Malawi International Trade Fair, which was held from May 20th to May 29, was held under the theme Promoting Economic Stability Through Enhanced Production and Industrialization.
Well, with that story, we've also come to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. Thank you for watching, but always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Till next week, stay safe and bye for now.